No, it's USB. It's chain can all of it through that. So.
And that's going to your speakers, to your monitors.
Yeah. So that interface took a crap. All right. Well, regardless, we'll use the built-in out. We'll use built-in output and use the input for the guitar. That works for me. We gotta come up to sound and make sure it's cranked up all the way. Okay, try this again, shall we? And we'll take the guitar. Make sure that's up in the mess. Alright, so if I go back to the beginning and push record, that's good enough right there. Alright, so if we go into here, I should be able to hear this now if I go enter to go back to the beginning. Alright, so let's find a 4-bar loop here. Alright, so say if I only like this part right here, right? I can go ahead and come to the end of this section of recording. You'll see I get that little double arrow cursor. This is a trim tool, which will allow me to take the end of this recording and bring her back right to a bar grid, which will be these lines here. So you can see at the top, I got bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can see that this is an 8-bar loop here. If I come to the top right down, I get this little loopy circle. I can go ahead and take that control and then drag out that section and make it a 16-bar loop with the same beginning 8 bars. I'm just doing that real quick so we can get a
Does that become a unit then?
Yeah, this will be one section that's being looped. So if I were to audio edit something in the first 8, it would change it in the second 8. Unless I hold Option and click and drag. Option, click and drag will allow me to copy it out. So what I'm going to do real quick is just turn this little cycle loop on here, which is this button right here.
Where are you at now?
Right down at the bottom, this little looper button.
Okay.
If I click that on and off, at the very top you'll see a gold bar appear. If I take this section is the only section that'll play. What's inside of that yellow bar? That's my looping area. So regardless, it'll play it. If I'm in the middle of the song, and all the way at the end of the section, I push play, it'll play what's in the loop recorder. Alright, so
is that for all the tracks or just the highlighted tracks?
It's all tracks. Whatever inside of that gold region is going to be looped. Alright, so real quick, we're just going to lay down a bass line. If you look at these tracks, you'll see that I have blue tracks, I have green tracks, and there should be a real audio track too. If I go track, new track, and go to, purple, that's the other color. So I do have all 3 in there. Yeah, so this one's coming out purple, this one's coming out blue. And then if I were to do this muted bass track with the MIDI controller, it'll be green. Those are the 3 different colored tracks inside of GarageBand.
Those are just like arrangement indicators, or is it the
type of track it is? Purple is going to be an electric guitar track, blue will be a real audio track, and green will be a MIDI track, electronical MIDI track. So that's E and... So I'm a little slow today. C, I believe? Sucks about using the computer, I can't hear the bass in there. Well, that's the cool thing about MIDI though. If I want to use a different track instead of bass, I can go and come to the right side over here. If I look down at the bottom right, I have these 3 controls. These are loops. That's the information for each track. And I also have a media browser, allow me to search through my whole computer and find media that I want to pull into the program and use. I could really pull anything in from this location of GarageBand. I'm going to go to I though, because that's the information for the given track. I'm going to go to the muted bass real quick and just maybe find a synth lead or something that's going to stand out of these computer speakers. So I'm going to go with Arena Run. Okay, so got the basic idea there. I'm going to push enter to go back to the beginning. Spacebar will play for me. So I'm going to enter back to the beginning. I'm just going to push this recording button down here and get a real quick MIDI track in here. Alright, so I kind of flubbed it a little bit, but regardless, we can fix that with MIDI. It's really simple.
Fix it in post-production?
Fix it in post-production. Yeah, we could do that. So real quick, I kind of want to hit on the signal flow, because that's what this whole session today is all about, is getting signal into the program and how it gets manipulated the whole way through it. So I'll start with the guitar. So what we got going on here is we got a guitar with some magnets in here, basically wrapped in coil, which creates an electronical field, magnetic field right around this area. When I pluck a string, right, it's going to vibrate and change that magnetic field around these pickups, which is making a fluctuation in the cable. All right, so that'll send it through the cable out of the input jack, and it'll come into my interface. So with a guitar or a mic, all right, signal it goes in different levels, all right. The weakest signal is going to be a mic signal. It's like we got like 0.002 of a volt. It's a really small voltage that comes off a mic or a guitar signal. All right, so when it hits the interface, these levels are so quiet that they need to be amplified for it to be workable inside the program. So when I hit this interface, the first thing that it hits is going to be the input, all right, and then after the input, it's going to go to a gain knob, right, or a mic pre. So that's what's going to boost this up to a line level signal. That's what the computer can use. So it's also, while it's doing that, after it leaves the pre and it's boosted, there's a little thing in here that changes the signal to a digital signal. And when we're looking at interfaces, those are the two most important things that you want to look for. Is how many things are we looking to record at once, and what's the quality of the A to D conversion into pre's inside of the machine. Nicer units are going to have a cleaner sound to them. They're going to sound better. You're going to pay more money for them, but they're going to sound awesome. The other thing is the A to D conversion. So this is an analog signal that's coming through this cable. When it hits this, it needs to change to digital. It needs to get to the computer somehow. The computer can only recognize ones and zeros. So what it's going to do is it's going to change that analog signal into a binary format. It's going to run it through the computer. The computer is going to recognize that. We are able to manipulate it, change it, do whatever we want to, add effects, all sorts of fun stuff inside the program. Once the program's done with it and it's playing it, I push play, it sends that signal that we've changed now back to this interface. And the interface changes that from a digital signal back to an analog signal again for us, which is what these require. This needs an analog signal coming back for it to reproduce the sound. So, which brings us to speakers. Speakers, when you're recording, you're really looking for what we call flat EQ, all right? Real flat EQ. As humans, we can only hear 20 hertz to 20K or 20,000 hertz. That's really the limit of our hearing range. By the time we're our age, we usually lose about the top 2,000. We really can't hear past like 18 once we get past like 20 or so. We can, it's just it's not as audible as when we were children. When we're
I
children, we
notice
can hear a lot more stuff.
when I go into a store and I play an amp, I can always tell whether an old person or a younger person. If it's a young person, all the highs are turned down, the reverb's up on like 8, but when you get an old guy in there, the treble's turned way up, bass is turned way down, and the preamp or the reverb's down at about 2.
It can be that, and it also has a lot to do with genre styling. But with that being said, the speakers that we sell here are going to be really close to flat EQ. And what that means is, if I were to go to Best Buy or Walmart and grab a pair of computer speakers, if you will, the really small tower-looking ones that have the micro speakers in it, those speakers are boosted in a lot of different frequency ranges. All right, the bass is boosted in some of them, the treble's cranked up in other ones, and they do that for video gaming purposes and theater systems. All right, when we're sitting in a theater at our house, we want it to be like, you know, crazy loud and be like you're in the actual theater, right? So it's all cranked up and it's hyped up a lot more. When we're recording, we absolutely don't want that because it's giving us a false representation of what frequencies are actually there and which ones are being utilized by what said instrument. So with that being said, you know, when you're mixing, if you are using those speakers, there's a way to work around it. If you know exactly what is boosted and what isn't, you can make adjustments in the program according to that. I got a lot of friends who do it that way. The nice thing about these speakers is those frequencies are not as boosted as much, so we're really hearing exactly what's going on. And that's really important, is if you're mixing at home and you got those speakers that are boosted in the highs, you know, your cymbals may sound really bright and crisp in your studio, but then you take it to your friend's Jeep or whatever car he has and you play it in a system in his car, and all of a sudden you have no hi-hats or you have no cymbals because your speakers are loud and it sounded loud, but now they're not as crisp or, you know, whatnot in your buddy's system because it's not mixed right. You're hearing things that aren't really there. So that's really what you're looking for a pair of speakers.
It pays then to get to know you.
It really does.
Hear it on other devices so that
Absolutely.
know where to put it.
It'd also be nice to have that wall of speakers behind you. That would be nice. Another thing I want to hit on too then is MIDI. So with this controller here, it looks like a regular old cool keyboard, except for one thing separates this. There's not a single sound on this keyboard, not a one. All this thing does is take electronical signals from what I'm playing. And everything on here has a name. Like these knobs here are named E1 and 2, and these things are called P1 through 8. All right, so each one of these has a MIDI name to it. Even these wheels here. So what a MIDI keyboard is going to do for me, or a MIDI controller, it's going to take the note that I played, or the pad that I hit, or whatever note it's assigned to, and it's going to say, okay, Josh is playing in A note, and he's playing it this hard, or he's playing it this soft, or he's holding it down this line, and he's holding it down hard here, but now he's letting up easier. All right, so it takes all that performance data, right? How hard I let go.
They call those parameters. Do they call them that?
It depends on what it's assigned to. These could be assigned to parameters. These are assigned to keynotes.
When you're talking about drums and all that, are those standard assignments in MIDI, or does each controller have to have them assigned?
They're usually standardized.
Okay, there's a standard assignment.
There's a standard like keynote for these.
Okay.
Which will be like usually it's a C, I believe.
Or an instrument?
Yeah, or an instrument. If I were to play this, I'm pretty sure it would be a C note. Okay. So these are just padded out to different notes.
But then you can change the patch. You call them those patches.
Yeah, you could change the assignment to them.